And joining us right now is Republican presidential candidate Rick Santorum. Sir, good to see you. Thanks so much for joining us.
Morning, Maria. How are you?
So if nothing else, Senator, this election is about leadership. Make the case why you think you should be in the Oval Office.
Well, you want someone who's a fighter and a winner, someone who's has a track record. You know, people are frustrated because they're looking at Washington, D.C., and it's dysfunctional, and there's nothing getting done. There's frustration that people are making promises that they're not keeping, and the bottom line is maybe you'd want to put someone up who has actually promised, fought, delivered, and won. There really isn't anybody else in this race who has a track record in Washington, D.C. of actually accomplishing anything and fighting for conservative principles. You're talking about the Iran sanctions bill. That was my bill.
To be fair, John Kasich, has been among the team that balanced the budget. You've got governors on that stage who've had to make real decisions. So, I mean, to say that you're the only one who's done anything is, I think, a reach.
Well, look, I'm talking about Washington, D.C. Yeah, sure, I'll give John Kasich credit for working as a budget chairman and in part of balancing a budget. You know, but he didn't pass any pro-life bills. I passed 3 of them when I was there, and I got Democratic support. He wasn't the guy that wrote and pushed forth the only end of a federal entitlement in the history of our country, and that's welfare reform. That's what I did. He didn't offer the Iran sanctions bill or the Syria sanctions bill. The Iran sanctions bill was just removed about 10 days ago. Was a bill that I authored. Actually, President Bush opposed, and I was able to fight through.
Right.
I can go through a whole laundry list of things that we were able to do. I'll give John Kasich a budget. You want to talk about 16 years of a real body of work on social issues, on international issues, health savings accounts, another thing that most Americans and every single Republican makes as the center of their health care plan. That's something that I introduced and pushed through over the 16 years I was there.
It's a fair point.
That's real accomplishment.
Absolutely right. A real accomplishment. Senator, I know the whole team here wants to get your take on last night and how you feel things are going for you, but I got to ask you about attending Donald Trump's event after your debate last night.
Surprise.
Yeah, I mean, I was surprised when I saw you and Mike Huckabee show up on stage with Donald Trump. What were you thinking?
Well, you know, when someone asked me to come and support a veteran, to raise money for veterans, it was a pretty easy call since I didn't have anything else to do at that particular time last evening. And he reached out to us and said, would you come? We're raising money for veterans.
Well, good
My parents
for you.
both worked 40 years at the VA, and I said, you know what? If we can't put politics aside and stand on the stage together and say, hey, support our veterans. I gave a speech last night at that event calling for reform of the VA. I have a very detailed plan of how we're going to do that, particularly addressing the 22 suicides a day that we're seeing by our veterans here in this country. I want to take the opportunity to go on national TV and talk about that and try to encourage people to help out our veterans. And if people want to take shots at me because I'm standing next to Donald Trump, okay,
no,
take
I'm
your
not
shot.
taking a shot. I think it was very impressive, and obviously, if you're doing it to help veterans, then that's exactly what you should be doing. So it didn't have anything to do with you perhaps wanting to be Donald Trump's vice president.
No, I'm not running for vice president. I'm running for president, and I always get a kick out of everybody, trying to put political motives together. I get that. I understand that, but you need to know this is very personal. I spent the first 18 years of my life living on a veterans hospital ground. I mean, this is really deep and personal for me.
Good for you, Senator. Here's Dagan McDowell.
Senator, you say Donald Trump approached you and Governor Huckabee, because I believe Donald Trump said when he first announced this that 2 candidates approached him. So he reached out to you.
I don't know. I didn't approach anybody. I can tell you that right now. I have no idea what kind of discussions were going on. There may have been other people talking to other folks at some point, but I can tell you I got an invitation about 12 o'clock yesterday to come, and we responded that we would come.
Senator Jack Otter here from Barron's. There's a lot of talk about the establishment versus non-establishment and so forth. I don't think voters care that much about that, but I know they do care about getting stuff done. There is a sense, not without some backing, that stuff doesn't happen in Washington because people are constantly fighting and posturing rather than trying to actually solve problems. How do you do that? I mean, you are known for somebody who does stand on principle. How do you cross the aisle? I mean, even if the Republicans should dominate both houses and get the White House, there's still going to be a tough minority there to fight with. How do you get stuff done?
Well, that's why I listed all those accomplishments, all of which are conservative things that were, in fact, some of the most conservative accomplishments, welfare reform, that we did. And in that case, you know, I worked with Democrats who wanted to see, you know, us doing something to change, try to help the poor. And Bill Clinton vetoed that bill twice, and I never gave up. That, you know, I'm a fighter. I'm dogged. I mean, I keep after it. I'll give you an example of how we got it done. I fought probably harder than any two people fought. Barbara Boxer and I, you know, probably had some of the most epic debates on the issue of abortion over a 15-year period. I mean, we fought like cats and dogs. But you know what? We fought, and we never made it personal. And so when the time came for me to look for someone to help me pass the Iran nuclear sanctions bill, I called Barbara Boxer. And you know why I did? I said, you know, if I can get Barbara Boxer to join me, knowing people know how far apart we are on just about everything, then there's probably a good chance I can get people between me and Barbara Boxer to support this bill. And she said yes. You know why she said yes? Not because she likes me. She doesn't. I'm not particularly fond of her. But we were honest with each other. We respected each other in the debate. We didn't burn bridges, and that's important. And so you want a fighter who can get things done. Have someone who respects everybody and treats people respectfully. And that's what this president doesn't do, and that's why the atmosphere is so toxic in Washington.
It's certainly one of the big issues that we all face in terms of this the divisiveness. Gary Kaltbaum's here. He's got a question. Go ahead, Gary.
Senator, the CBO just came out and said we're heading for $27 trillion in debt and back to trillion-dollar deficits. And we keep hearing things about what you may or may not do from everybody. Do you have any specifics as of yet? Because the taxpayers are just getting killed at this juncture, and much worse going forward.
Well, as you know, you all know that growth is a big part of the problems that we're having right now. I mean, the anemic growth that we're looking at is a big problem. So I've actually put forth a comprehensive economic plan that includes regulatory relief, which is a huge part of why we're not competitive. You know, I've said we're going to make America the #1 manufacturer. You want to get people back in the workforce, particularly the 74% of working-age Americans who don't have a college degree. You got to provide jobs for them to be able to excel. And so, to me, China's reduction and shifting away from manufacturing is a real opportunity for America to see some of that market share and move some of those jobs back here. So growth will be a big part of it. We have a tax plan, a regulatory plan, trade plan to do just that. But you got to have reform of entitlements. Obviously, we're going to get rid of Obamacare. That's a big thing, and replace it with a tax credit system that will be much less expensive, and certainly will sink the size of government and bureaucracy. But I've got a plan for Social Security. I've got a plan for Medicare. I've got a plan for Medicaid. I'll just use example of Medicaid and the means test and entitlement programs. I was able to pass welfare reform and lead that effort and get Democratic support in the United States Senate, and finally get Bill Clinton to sign the bill. And it's a very simple process of block granting these programs to the state and putting work requirements and time limits in place, and then giving the states maximum flexibility to be able to do, whether it's food stamps or whether it's Medicaid, whether it's other types of low-income assistance. That's the kind of cooperation that we're able to get. And you say it can't happen again. It can happen again if you're willing to sit down and actually make compromises. Work with the other side and say, you know what, we need to give you a little money here, we need to tweak this here, and so they feel a part of the process of making this reform happen.
Yeah, I mean, that's called leadership, right? Senator, good to have you on the program.
Yeah, that's
Thank
exactly
you so
what
much.
it is.
Appreciate your time very much this morning, sir. We'll see you soon.